Hi friend, Jeanette here. You're about to take one of my Spine Care Foundations classes. This is my signature class for back pain and spinal injuries. It's the first step in taking control of your life again, and the next step is going to my website, JeanetteConery.com, and signing up for your free back pain starter kit. While you're here, please be sure to like my video, subscribe to my channel, and share this with all of your friends. Enjoy the video. Hi, welcome to Spine Care Foundations. I'm Jeanette Conery, your yoga therapist for this class. And before we begin, I think it's important to mention every single time that this is meant to help you and heal you. So any movement that feels uncomfortable, really pay close attention to that. Sometimes discomfort is part of the healing process. However, we don't want to go into pain. That's a sure way to create more inflammation. So we're going to get started with, we'll need a block for this class, a blanket for your knees when we're on all fours, and a chair. Please make sure that the front feet of your chair are on your mat so it won't slide. And we'll start lying down with the legs on the chair. So right when you get down on the floor, you'll notice it feels pretty nice to go flat. Take a breath, exhale through your mouth, and feel the heaviness of your legs pressing your femurs deeply into your hip sockets. Feel the way your pelvis flattens itself out, widens itself out on the floor, and bring your right knee up towards you. Pull it in just one time, and then put it back on the chair. We'll do that with the other side. Left knee comes in, bring it in, and then put it back on the chair. Now that we've done that, you might notice the pelvis feels a little bit wider. That's nice too. So, excuse me, I'm going to pause while this airplane goes over. Okay, so next we will work our way to the top of the spine with the head and the neck. And I'd like you to take a breath, and as you exhale, turn your head slowly to the right. Inhale to the center. Exhale to the left. Inhale to the center. So do this just a few more times, and I'd like you to notice the mobility of your neck today in rotation. How tight is it right now? Okay, and we'll settle back into center. Interlace your fingers and place your hands behind your head with your nose pointing right up at the ceiling and your elbows resting on the floor. So if it's not possible for you to rest your elbows on the floor because your shoulders are tight, put a block or a rolled up blanket or towel underneath your elbows so that at least you can relax, right? Pillows are good for that too. Now we're going to turn the eyes only to the right. So the nose will stay pointing right up at the ceiling. Turn your eyes to the right for 30 seconds and try to see if you can look at your elbow in your peripheral vision, or possibly even something a little bit further away. Relax your neck. Good. Bring your eyes back to center. Close your eyes, blink them a few times. If this is something you don't do regularly, then your eyes will feel a little tired after this, but don't worry, they'll recover very quickly. So now we'll be looking to the left. Again, we're not turning the head or the neck at all. We're just turning the eyes.
beginning now for 30 seconds. Okay, ready to come back to center here. We can remove the hands from behind the head and just place them wherever you want. We'll do that side to side movement again. Exhale, turn your head to the right. Inhale to center and exhale the other way. You might notice a difference here. A lot of the time we can get a little bit more range of motion in the neck after doing this eyeball exercise. So now that we've loosened up the neck, let's work a little bit more on the hips. So I'm going to have you, instead of pushing the chair away, leave the chair where it is, bring your feet to the floor, and then scoot yourself up the mat. So we have a little bit of space there for the feet. Bring your right knee in towards your chest, put both hands on that right knee. And we're just going to draw the knee across the front of the body from side to side. And this movement will be more like an arch than a line. So it's like you're tracing a rainbow with your knee. And we're just going across the top of the range of motion for the hip, the deep hip flexion. So this can feel tight at times. And it's good to work the joint capsule in this way. We're challenging the tissues deep inside the hip that get stiff, that limit the mobility of the hip. So now we can switch sides. We'll put that right foot down and we'll try the other side. So left knee comes into the hands, trace an arch with that knee. All right, so both feet on the floor. We're going to do a side lying twist. So I'll have you get your block and roll over onto your side. Oh, yes, actually, I'm glad I have this blanket here. A lot of people really want a pillow for this twist. And the block is gonna go right behind you, behind your shoulder blades. So when you roll back into your twist, the block will be right there holding you. Place your knees up high at about a 90-degree angle from your hip. Hands out in front of you on the floor. Take a breath. As you exhale, reach through your top hand. In this case, it's my left. And inhale up. Bring your hand up onto your chest and open into a twist. Adjust the block if needed. Okay, exhale. We bring that hand back out and reach. Inhale, twist. It's a little twist. It's a really small one, and we're taking care not to twist the low back here. A lot of people in this class have back injuries and disc problems. So when we have those, we don't twist the low back. In addition to that, if you have chronic low back pain or tightness, even if it's not injured, it can still just trigger and aggravate your pain to twist the low back really deeply. So now we're going to stay here in this twist with the shoulder blade resting on the block, okay? And we're going to make some circles with this arm. You have a choice. You can make your circles with your arms straight like this. And this is good for people who don't have any shoulder problems, right? So we can do that, and it's going to give you a really good stretch on your chest. You'll notice I'm not making complete circles. So if your shoulder is not agreeing with you on this movement, put your hand on your shoulder. So you can still make circles, and now there's less pressure on your shoulder joint. Good. This feels so nice. It's really good to stretch that chest and shoulder. It has a really important role to play in keeping your back healthy. All right, so now we're going to move that block away and come onto your back again. And bring both knees in towards the chest. This time, rock side to side a little bit and enjoy that massage on your sacrum. You can even make some little circles here with your knees. That feels nice. You can visualize the circle that you're tracing around your sacrum as you do this movement and reverse directions. Good. So we're ready now to do this twist on the other side, and you'll see now what I mean about the placement of the block. It goes behind you, behind your upper back, behind your shoulder blades, and knees are high, about 90 degrees from your hip. Both hands on the floor in front of you. Take a breath. As you exhale, reach through your top hand and inhale up into your little twist here. Exhale, reach. Inhale, open and twist. Just 2 more times. Okay, this time we're holding. We're going to stay right here and do the arm circles. Again, if you have shoulder problems, go ahead and fold your arm in half by putting your hand on your shoulder. And you're also noticing here, this block is giving you a massage on your shoulder blade. Isn't that nice? Now, you'll probably notice that one side is tighter than the other, and that's normal. All right, now we're ready to come back onto the back. So we're moving the block, coming onto the back. It's time to pull the knees in one last time, really quick here. If you're having a day where your sacrum just hurts a lot, you can spend some extra time here and come back to this. If anything that we do during class is aggravating you, you can come back to this movement here. Okay, so now we're going to move into some bridges. Place your feet on the floor, please. Make your toes point right at the bottom of your mat. So this means that you're going to feel a little bit pigeon-toed. And that's how we get our neutral hip. I'm going to have you put your block between the legs, but on the wider setting. Not the widest, but just like that. Okay, so that the hips, the knees are slightly more than hip width distance apart. The toes are still pointing at the bottom of the mat. I'm going to start with a really small lift here. Press your feet into the floor and lift the hips and just see how that feels and lower down. So you have power over how high you lift your hips. I'm not going to encourage you to go as high as possible or anything like that. It's more about how high do I want to go? How high do I feel comfortable and what is beneficial to me? And if you go into the point where it hurts, that's beyond the benefit. You can back off a little until you feel more neutral, right? So if it feels good, you can go a little higher. And we're going to do 10 of these. So I've done about 4 already now. Let's inhale up and exhale down. One more. Okay, and come down, rest for a moment. We're about to go back up and do a hold. So this hold, we're going to add a movement of the feet. Now, just be prepared for that mentally. So inhale, bring your hips up, and now bring them about an inch or 2 lower than your highest comfortable point. Okay, and then lift your heels and put them down, and lift your toes and put them down. So we're just rocking back and forth across the foot. And if this is not happy for your back, go back to the regular bridge or the pulling the knees in and rocking side to side. So we inhale, the heels are up, exhale, heels come down. Inhale, toes are up, exhale, toes come down. Breathing and moving together. And while you're doing this, you're trying to keep your hips stable, sturdy, so they're not wobbling all over the place. They're really staying still. They're just kind of going up and down a little bit as you lift and lower your heels or toes. Okay, and now we can rest. And remove the block. Bring the knees in. And roll side to side. So we're going to spend a lot of focus today on the legs, specifically balancing the contraction of the muscles of the hip and the lower legs too, and the feet, so that we get an integrated movement that will hold our back stable as we go through life. The next exercise is going to be for your core. So let's take a second to find the neutral spine. Place your hands down low on your pelvis with your middle fingers on the pubic bone and the heels of your hands on the hip points. Rock your pelvis back and forth, tilting it away from you and then tilting it back towards the floor. And we're going to look for that middle point, the point where your sacrum, the center of your sacrum, is on the floor. And if you look up, you might find that your your hip points and your pubic bone are on the same plane. They're nice and flat. Now, that's not universally true for everyone. For some people, it might be different, right? Because our pelvises are all shaped differently, and the tissues of our bodies can affect the way that looks too. But we want more or less a level plane with those points. And you'll know that it's right if you pull in your lower abdominal muscles and you can feel underneath your hands those muscles tensing. And if you can move your body and keep your pelvis right where it is, that is preferable. So let's practice that with a really simple movement. Inhale, bring your leg up, just like this, and straighten it out as much as you can. Pull your toes in like you're going to put a footprint on the ceiling. Flex your quads. The whole leg is active here. And then we're going to put that down and switch sides. So this is sort of like a marching motion. And I'm hoping that you're finding the transversus abdominis under your hands here in the front of your pelvis to help you stabilize your pelvis as you move your legs, so that nothing in your body moves except for the legs. Now, this is also good stretch for the hamstrings and the calves, and it's also good practice for your hip alignment. Try to point your toes right at the head of your mat. This will feel, again, a little bit pigeon-toed. You'll feel like your hips are internally rotating just a little bit. And now we can add the arms. So bring your arms out to the sides with palms facing up and keep that marching motion going without any movement in your pelvis. And now we're going to start reaching opposite arm towards the toe. Okay, now you might be able to touch the toe, maybe not. That's not really important. What's important is the stability that you have in this movement. Some of us might even want to lift the head and shoulder. So when we do that, one shoulder comes up, one shoulder stays down. And this is how we're going to make sure we don't twist the low back. I'd like you to pause with every repetition. Really pause to scoop in your abdominal muscles. Make sure your pelvis is neutral with the center of your sacrum on the floor. Okay, now we can take a break. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. And let's roll over onto the side. Again, a pillow or a block can work as a pillow. Here, we're going to do some clamshells. So the knees are about 90 degrees with the hips, okay? And we inhale, open, exhale, close. We're gonna just do 10 of these. I wouldn't worry too much about coordinating the breath. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to extend the top knee, point the toes down at the floor. Make sure you're rolled forward a little bit here. If you roll back, then you actually end up using your spine to lift your legs. So roll forward so we can make sure it's the hip muscles. We're going to do between 5 and 10 repetitions of leg lifts with the toes pointing down. Ready, begin. 1, 2, 3, pause and take a break if it's really intense. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Fantastic. Okay, so take a break. Those are not easy. The leg is a heavy, heavy thing. We are going to do one more. We're going to do kind of the same thing we did just now, but we're turning the toes up instead of down. We're going to do between 5 and 10 of these. Ready? Go. 1, 2, 3. Now, don't be afraid if your movement is really small. That's okay. You can have a small movement. It's more about strengthening the hip. 8, 9, 10. Okay. Whew. Right? You can take your fist and punch yourself in the glutes a little. That helps. Next, we're going to the other side. So I'm just going to flip my body around here. Okay. Again, knees are straight out from the hips. We'll do 10 clamshells. Again, make sure you're rolled slightly forward, you're leaning forward. And that way, you won't be using your spine to make this movement. You'll know you're using your spine if when you lift your leg, go back like that. That's not really working the hip completely. Okay, that's 10. And now we're turning the leg. We're extending the leg out in front, turning the toes down. Inhale, lift the leg, bring it down. We'll do 10 like this. Nine, 10. Oh boy. Yeah. This hip's a little bit weaker than my other one. I'm sure you all have that one hip stronger than the other. Okay, now we're ready to do the last one. Extend your leg out in front of you, turn the toes up, and we'll do 10 leg lifts. Between 5 and 10, excuse me. Between 5 and 10. Oh. It's hard. Okay, good. Fantastic. Now we're ready to come onto all fours. So come on up, and if you're one of my friends that has knee issues, then you can put your blanket or towel underneath your knees for this one, just like that. And we're starting with neutral spine. So we need to find that neutral spine. The wrists are right underneath the shoulders. The knees are right underneath the hips. And this makes it possible for us to know that we have enough space for the spine to be neutral. Now let's roll the shoulders a few times to make sure that we have the shoulders turned on, so we have good support for the upper body. So last circle, press your hands into the floor and lift through your shoulder girdle. Okay, and then we're going to tilt the pelvis forward and back a few times, just like we did on the floor, until we find that neutral spine where we have just a little bit of an arch in the low back. The entire back is long from the tailbone all the way up to the skull. Take your right foot out behind you, put your toes on the floor. Pull up your quad muscles, flex your quad muscles, and reach long through the back of your head, reach long through your right heel. So your entire body's long here, and you're also pulling your abdominals in for some support too, right? And from this position, you can actually get a really nice leg workout by taking half of the weight off of your leg. So it's as though you're going to lift your leg. I want you to flex your butt and pretend you're going to lift your leg, but you don't. You just take about half of the weight off, and your toes are still touching the floor, but you're holding some of the weight of your leg, right? And we're keeping ourselves long, pressing into the floor through the hands, and keeping the support in the abdominals. Okay, let's try that on the other side. Actually, before we do, let's come down and rest the arms. Yeah, a lot of my friends tell me, Jeanette, you just need to take a break with the arms sometimes. It's a bit much. So that's what we do. Good, so now we're ready to do the other side. We're going to find neutral. Put the left leg out behind you. Tuck the toes in. Reach long through the heel. Reach long through the back of your head. Keep the shoulders down out of your ears and keep your belly pulled up. Lift half the weight of your leg by squeezing your butt, flexing your butt, and keep your quads activated too. We want the quads and the glutes to be able to work together to balance the hip. This leads to a balanced pelvis, and you guessed it, a stable spine. So, lifting only half the weight of the leg. You know, it's a pretty good workout. All right, so we'll come down and rest for a second. Put your forearms on the floor, shift your hips back, and why not bring your hands together behind your head into this stretch for the triceps and shoulders. So we're going to come back up and do that again. And this time you have the option of either doing exactly what we just did, or you can lift the leg completely. And then we'll also have the option to add upper body by lifting the opposite arm. So are you ready? Take it one step at a time. We're going to start with neutral. Wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Stretch your right leg out behind you. Find the exact same position we were in before. Can you remember all the points of alignment? Then, if you so choose, you may lift your leg. Keep your toes pointing at the floor. This is really important. We talked about it twice already in class today, keeping that hip slightly internally rotated. And then you have the opportunity to lift your arm. So you can put your hand palm down on the chair like I am now, or you can lift that arm. And you'll notice that this adds quite a lot of instability, and that's an opportunity for you to strengthen. Hip is still slightly internally rotated, and reach through your heel, reach through your fingertips, and bring your hand down and bring your knee down. We'll go into child's pose before we do the other side. While you're here in child's pose, take a nice back breath. Breathe into your upper back. Feel the way your rib cage spreads out on the inhale as your lungs inflate and put that pressure from the inside. It's a massage from the inside. Okay. And we're up again. Find your neutral. Okay, a very small arch in the low back. Belly is pulled up. Belly button is pulled up and in. And stretch your left leg out on the floor behind you. Tuck the toes, rotate the hips slightly internally. Flex your butt and your quads. And if you so choose, lift your leg. Make sure you're not doing a hydrant motion. Lifting that hip, we want everything flat, the two hip points level with the floor. And now you can add your arm. You can put your hand on the chair, or you can let your hand hover over the chair. Reach long through the heel and through the fingers, a long diagonal line through your body. The center point being your belly button, which you're pulling in towards your spine. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Child's pose one more time. Just for a second here. One back breath. And then we can come up and we will get rid of this blanket. We'll be doing some down dog for a very brief period. So put your block right there in front of the chair. Take a breath. Exhale back into your downward facing dog, lifting the knees, lifting the hips, keeping your bottom ribs down in front, and then come back down on the inhale. Move into and out of your downward dog. And if you like, you can add a little hold. But we're not going to make it a long hold today. Just maybe a breath or two. And then take your feet wide off the mat. Walk your feet towards your hands as far as you can while keeping your back straight. You can even bend your knees here and then put your hands on that block. We're walking our way up to standing. Okay, we're going to walk those feet forward. Put your hands on the back of the seat of the chair. Bend your knees, shift your hips back so you can use the weight of your lower body to pull your upper body into a little bit of traction. And then we're going to come back up to standing, just like that. Now, let's talk about spirals. Spirals in yoga are used to describe one of the ways that energy or effort can travel through your body in opposing directions. So if we put the block between the thighs, this will just help us get some feedback so we can really feel the spirals. The first spiral I want you to feel is in your feet. So if you lift your toes and you separate them and you put them down, okay, you'll feel your arches rising away from the floor. Can you keep those arches lifting away from the floor while you press subtly into the floor through the big toe knuckle? So if you're doing that, you're feeling a spiral that runs from the outer ankle to the inner big toe knuckle. Can we do that movement of pressing into the floor through the big toe knuckle without rolling the feet in while keeping the entire foot on the floor? The next spiral we're going to explore is the outer spiral. It travels this way on your shins. So if you're pressing into the floor through your big toe knuckles and you lift your quads a little, you can feel the energy or the effort that travels from the big toe knuckle outward and up your leg towards the outer knee. And if you have your quads squeezed, kneecaps lifted, and you squeeze your gluteals without allowing your legs to rotate outward, you'll find that having the big toe knuckle pressing into the floor is really helpful in keeping your hips neutral as you do that. So now we have all the muscles of the legs turned on. We have the hips neutral at the same time, and we have spirals going all over the place. There's an outward spiral and an inward spiral happening in your leg. So let's take a second to find the neutral spine here. Now that we've got our solid, steady foundation of the legs, roll the shoulders back. Use your transversus abdominis, activate that muscle. And lengthen the back of your head, or the back of your neck, by reaching through the crown of your head. Take a breath into your rib cage and see if you can breathe into your body without tensing your neck or your shoulders. Good. Okay. So we're going to apply all of this now to a pose called chair pose. I'll have you come over to a wall. And as you can see, oh, my chair's in the way, but there we go. I have a mirror over here, so you can see me from the front and the side. That's better. Okay. So place the block between your legs just like you had before. You have your hips on the wall, your knees are bent into a comfortable squat, so not a really low one, all right? Place your hands on your thighs. Feel the spirals in this pose. Press your big toe knuckle into the floor, squeeze the block. Okay, and then press your hands into your thighs so you can bring yourself up nice and tall. That's a really important aspect of the chair pose. It's essentially how do we squat while keeping our joints aligned and resisting the pull of gravity as it tries to round our back forward. So now we're going to walk the hands down the legs towards the knees and keep the back straight. If you look at my reflection in the mirror, you'll see my back is straight. As you do that, you'll feel your sits bones touching the wall. So we'll try that again. We're up here, pressing into the thighs, and we can feel the tailbone on the wall. As you walk forward, you then feel your sits bones on the wall, and that's how you know your pelvis has tilted forward, and that is what we want when we bend and we squat. We want the pelvis and the hips to have the mobility to be able to move in that way, so we don't need to take all of that effort into the spine. The muscles and ligaments of the spine are mostly meant to hold it stable, hold it straight, not to support a lot of weight as we bend over. So let's move up to a little bit of movement. I'm going to invite you to inhale and bring your right arm up overhead. And as you do, keep your back straight. Keep your head back. And while you're holding this, it does take a lot of effort. Can you relax here? Can you relax your low back? Is it possible to lift your pelvic floor? And relax while you're doing this effort. Okay, bring that arm down. We'll take a break actually. We'll come down and do the same thing with the other arm. Ready? So find your position, feel those sits bones on the wall, lengthen your spine and inhale. Bring the arm up. Feel your spirals in your legs. Feel the engagement of your feet in the floor. Feel the muscles of your back resisting as gravity tries to pull you forward. Keep your head back. All right. Walk your hands back up your legs, straighten your legs a little, take another break. You can even do that rock we were doing on the floor. You can do that here on the wall. All right, and now we'll do that again, and we're going to try both arms. That's optional, you don't have to do that. So we're squatting down, leaning forward, inhale, both arms up. Now you can see we don't really need to go super low for chair pose here. Chair pose does not need to be super deep. If you are using all of the alignment principles, and you'll find it quite challenging enough without going really deep. All right, so one more break. We have one more thing I want to have you do in this work, and that's a little tiny baby twist. So we're gonna bend the knees, lean forward, make sure your spine is long and your spirals are turned on. Turn your head to the right. Bring your right thumb up your leg until it's in that leg crease. Push down slightly through that thumb, and then just bring your shoulder back a little. So the low back is straight. We're twisting the upper back only. Pull your belly in for some support. Squeeze the block a little bit. And then we can untwist, return to the center position, straighten the legs, and come back up. Last time, ready? We're doing the twist on the other side. Bend the knees, lean forward, turn your head to the left. And then bring that left thumb up into the left leg crease. And just bring that left shoulder behind a little. Squeezing the left shoulder towards the spine. Pull your belly button in. Squeeze the block just a little bit. And come back to neutral. Straighten your legs. Remove the block. We'll come to standing. Notice how it feels after all that hip work. Okay. Move your body a little bit, do a little bit of twisting like this. Really soft, gentle twisting. And now we want to stretch the back, right? That was a lot of work for the back. So we're going to bring the chair back to the mat. Yours is probably still there. I moved mine, but that's okay. Face your chair. Take your feet wide. Place your hands on the chair. Walk your hands to the back edge of that chair seat. Shift your hips back and stretch your back. Keep it straight though, okay? Okay. Now keep your elbows on the seat of the chair. Bring your knees down to the mat. And we'll back away from the chair. We're going to do the hip circles like this. Really soft, gentle ones. And I'm feeling a need after that sequence that we did on the wall to stretch out the front of the hip. That was a lot of work for the hip flexors. So we'll reverse directions here with these hip circles, and then we'll move right into a front hip stretch. Now, we're ready to do that now. So I want you to know, those of you with sensitive knees will bring back your blanket. Come to the kneeling position on your blanket. Put your right foot in front of you. Okay. Your hips, your hip points should be facing the front of your mat. And press your hands into that top thigh. Feel the way that lengthens out the front hip on your left leg. Okay, now we can move forward into a little stretch. Make sure your knee never passes your ankle. And from here, if you want a little bit more stretch, you have a few options. You can press the top of your left foot into the floor, and that's going to actually flex your quad. I want you to flex your butt at the same time that you do that, and you'll feel even more length in the front of your left hip. And the second option, what you can add on if you want, is to scooch your right foot forward just a little bit more and come forward a little bit more. But you want to keep your hips level with the front of the mat. Now, you also want to keep your spine nice and long. You want to keep your shoulders level with the front of the mat. And now we can move back, bring the right knee down, and we'll try that on the other side. So we'll put the left foot forward. Okay, make sure the hips are square, the shoulders are square, hands are on top of that left thigh. Press into the thigh and lift yourself nice and tall. Take a breath and relax here. Enjoy the relaxed tallness. And lean forward just a little bit into a stretch. Press the front of your right foot into the floor, the top of the right foot. That turns on the quads, the front thigh muscles. Now squeeze your butt on the right side, and you'll feel even more opening there. And step number 3, optional, scooch your left foot a little bit more forward and come forward a little bit more. Keeping your butt squeezed, keeping that foot pressing into the floor. Press into your thigh again. Make sure your back is tall and long. Good. And now we're done. We'll bring the knees down and we'll take that blanket out. So we're ready now to do our twist again. It left us time to do that twist we were doing before, but just to hold it in stillness. So lie on your side, bring your shoulder blade behind your upper back. Use a pillow if you like one. I actually prefer this without a pillow, but I don't have any neck problems right now. So do what feels good for you. Lean back onto that yoga block or pillow or whatever you have at home there for yourself. Place your hand on your knee. Relax as much as possible. Relax your hips and your pelvic floor. Relax your belly, your jaw, your hands, your shoulders, your throat. Notice if your body wants to tense. It's really common. We're laying here trying to relax and the shoulders will just get really tight all of a sudden, or maybe for you, it's a different part of your body. Notice that if you can. Relax it when it happens. Okay, and now we'll move over to the other side. So move the block, come onto your back. I want you to just lay here for a second on your back before we go to the other side. Feel your body, feel the way your spine rests on the floor, releasing the tension of your body down into the earth. Feel the heaviness of your body. Surrender yourself to the flow of life as it moves through you. And we'll do this twist again on the other side. So roll over, put that block behind you, and rest your shoulder blade on that block. Knees are high here. And relax your body. And sometimes it's nice to take a hand and put it on the thigh and press the hip away from you, lengthening out the side of your body. So that would be the hand of your bottom arm. Bring it up to the top hip and just push that thigh away. Okay, now we're ready to unwind the spine to a straight position and then come onto the back. So you have options here, okay? You can bring your knees towards each other and walk your feet out. This can be something nice to do at the end of a yoga practice, just to release the sacrum a little bit more. You can see I'm pressing on my thighs. And you can stay here in this position if it feels wonderful. I would say up to 2 or 3 minutes, or you can move yourself into your final resting pose, stretching your legs out on the floor or resting your legs on the chair. Actually, I think that's what I'd like to do today, is rest my legs on the chair. So As you lie in your final resting pose, take a second to make any last minute adjustments to increase your comfort by 5 or 10%. Feather your nest. Comfort is queen here. And when you find yourself settling in, I'd like you to bring your attention to the back of your body. The back of your body resting on the floor. The heaviness of your weight resting on the earth. Now, drift your attention upward to the front of your body. The softness in front of your body that moves as you breathe. The lightness, the expansion here. Consider the fact that this heaviness and this lightness exist together in the same body in the same moment. When we start to look, we find all sorts of opposites existing together in the same moment. In fact, everything we experience is just that. Opposites are just two ends of a spectrum. Essentially, they are just two variations of the same thing. And our awareness has the ability to hold within it all of those opposites at the same time. While in this body there may be discomfort or pain, at the same moment there's also comfort and possibly even pleasure. It's time to start making your way back up. So if you have a chair that you're using, you can push it away. You can come onto your side for a moment without twisting your spine. Rest for one breath and then come to a comfortable seated position. For me today, comfort will be in a chair. Okay. Thank you for joining this class today, whether you're attending in person or you're watching later. I appreciate you and your presence and the opportunity to work with you. From my heart to yours, I hope you are well and healthy.